Alright, hello and welcome. This is CT5, and today we're going to do a little game design ramble about Wolong Fallen Dynasty. This is an Souls-like action RPG that came out recently, and this is a genre that I frankly have basically no experience with personally playing. Now, I've seen bits and pieces of various Souls-like games. Let's count them. For example, I've seen games like Demon Souls, Dark Souls, Sekiro, Nioh, Elden Ring. But never played them. I've only watched them. And now, here comes Wolong. And same story. I've only watched my friend play it. Haven't played it myself, only watched my friend play it. But this was the first Souls-like game that I actually thought about buying. And what really impressed me about Wolong was how well designed the stamina bar is. In-game it's referred to as a spirit gauge. I will likely use these terms synonymously. I really honestly can't get over how elegant and clever the stamina bar is. It's essentially one bar for everything. You start at neutral, you start in the middle, and based on your actions, you will either gain spirit or lose spirit. So let's take a look. So up here on the top, in blue, that's you gaining spirit. So typically this is going to be from you just doing like basic attacks or landing a successful parry. And on the flip side, more powerful actions, both more powerful attacks and like magic, will cost you spirit and bring you towards the low spirit side. So more powerful actions, both the attacks and defensive options like parrying and rolling in particular. And the other neat thing here is that if you're fully maxed out on low spirit and you get hit, you're going to be stunned for a brief duration as well. So right off the bat, we see this really interesting sort of tug-of-war balancing act that you have to manage, right? It's awesome to do more strong attacks and like pre-buff early in a fight, but that costs spirit, so now you need to find a way to hit the enemy to get your spirit back up to neutral. Alternatively, you can just start by rushing in, getting in the base kits, accumulate a lot of spirit, and then you have a lot of stamina to work with. But then it gets better, because this stamina bar very subtly highlights and encourages parrying. And it does so by gently nudging you away from rolling. And the way they do it is part of what makes this such a great design, in my opinion. So first thing to note is that the rolls, or the dodge, it seems a bit more like dinky and like less effective in Wolong compared to other Souls games. So what I seem to have noticed from watching my friend play is that the rolls seem to have a bit less invincibility, and it seems like it's easier for you to get caught on terrain. So let's say that there's like a wall and maybe some like a tree or some sort of that form this narrow passage, and that your character can walk through. But if you're not precise enough when you roll in the right direction, it's easy for your character to get caught on the sides of this and not actually get through this gap. The other neat thing is, as I mentioned earlier, rolling costs spirit. Since it costs spirit, if you do it too much, you're suddenly going to get maxed out on spirit, and then if you get hit, right, you're stunned and like very, very vulnerable for a bit. So what this like really subtly punishes the panic roll, which I think is freaking awesome, because at least based on, for casuals like me, that's a pretty common pattern you see in people playing these Souls-like games. You're going to roll a lot to try and keep yourself safe. And Wolong's saying like, okay, you can do that, but there is a very noticeable cost, a much more noticeable cost, in that there's like multiple signals showing how dangerous it is, right? Because we can make the comparison and the argument that, okay, rolling here is just the same as other games, because if you roll too much, then you're out of stamina and you can't do as much. Cool. But that little bit of being fully maxed in low spirit and the danger side of things and then getting hit, that feels much more noticeable. And you have that whole bar like flashing at you this whole time. It's just like, oh, it feels bad. And so that's the other cool thing. If you get hit in that state and you're stunned, if you aren't getting like comboed to death at that point, by the time you actually recover and are able to move again and act with your character, if the enemy's charging in at you, right, while you were stuck and is ready to attack, your best defensive option at this point is not to roll for all those things we said earlier, right? The lower invincibility, the low stamina costs, Getting hit would just be terrible. It seems like it's pretty easy to get hit out of it. Your best defensive option is to parry, or deflect, as it's called in game. So cool, right? And so it's really interesting because like that's like so against the player's instinct at that point. Right? The instinct is to roll and dodge and get the hell out of there. And this game's saying, no, the best thing is to stand your ground, brace yourself, and parry and block that attack to really feel like a badass. That is so cool. And also, while you're at max low spirit, you can't actually roll anymore. Your only defensive option available if your max low spirit is to parry. And guess what? On successful parries give you spirit, as well as giving you an opening to start your own offensive, which then gives you more spirit. It's a whole freaking redemption arc, right? If you panic roll too much or just get hit and you find yourself in a bad spot, you can redeem yourself if you parry. So cool. So in conclusion, on the one hand, only having one bar instead of two. So like if instead only having one bar for stamina instead of both having like a magic bar and a stamina bar, that's already cool as like a nice little, less is more kind of thing, right? That's simple, that's clean, we love it. But it gets better from there because the designers, they have this spirit bar interact with the game mechanics in interesting ways that encourage players to change their habits, all while subtly placing parry front and center as like the central mechanic of Wolong. Incredible.